Teddy Covers. Teddy Covers in the house, coming to us live from Las Vegas, Nevada on this Tuesday morning. Teddy Covers, how you doing, my man?
I'm hungover, Jimmy. I don't drink very often. Last night I had a couple of drinks. So this we're heavily caffeinated this morning and doing the best we can. And it's something really, I mean, especially during season, might happen twice a year, maybe, where I'm feeling a little bit, where the next day you're going to have a little impact of what happened last night. But, of course, last night for me, I had Cincinnati. There wasn't much excitement in that game. So by halftime, I had a couple of pops in me. At least I didn't stay up late. But I didn't enjoy that game at all, Jimmy. I know you did, and I want to give you kudos. You handicapped that 100% correct. Pittsburgh's defense dominated the game.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. We talk about all the different types of the ways of capping NFL, and I've made a ton of mistakes so far this year. And I just think the biggest mistake I was making that I tried to was taking too much about what's gone on in the last 3 weeks of this short season, and the sample size is too small. And that's what I was trying to do, and pushed in that direction by a lot of great cappers in the chat. But it was enjoyable to get a win. It's been a tough year for me so far, but went 5-3 last week, and that was a nice little bow on top. So I feel hopeful moving forward in NFL, very hopeful moving forward in NFL. Speaking of NFL, Teddy Covers, do you have any feel on this Thursday nighter coming up, Rams, Seahawks? Seahawks open up at +1.5, and they're now the favorites at -2. So we've seen a 3.5-point move at Pinnacle, 3.5-point move at Pinnacle. That's a big move. A big move when one team goes from a dog to a favorite. And the total here in this Thursday nighter Rams Seahawks opened at 49, now at 50 or 49.5. Do you have an early feel on this Thursday nighter?
So it's definitely worth noting when you talk about that this is a big line move. It is, but it isn't. Moving a number Sunday night and Monday takes a lot less money than moving a number later in the week. And the books are very quick to react to the first bets, and they often adjust aggressively. So if you see an early week move and it seems significant, it's less significant than a late week move. It takes a lot less money to move it. That being said, the only way I go here is against the line move, to be perfectly honest. I think LA is better than Seattle. And last week was I'm not going to say the mother of all flat spots, but it was a pretty clear flat spot on the schedule for the Rams, and they played like it. This is not a pretty clear flat spot for the Rams, and coming off a loss, that's the only way I would look in this game is LA plus. But I'm in no rush. I haven't bet it yet. As the line continues to drift towards Seattle, we get a little bit more interested in the Rams side in this one.
I think that's a good look. Eddie Euler saying 40% chance of showers in Seattle Thursday. Tom Marino saying I'd lean under. Rams defense was humiliated, and Goff is trash on the road. What do you think of Tom Marino's take towards the under?
I certainly wouldn't talk you out of it. And again, when we talk these Thursday night games, the under makes a ton of sense. Unfortunately, unders that make sense don't always cash, but it does make a ton of sense in this ballgame. I do think Seattle will have some success slowing down Goff, and I do think that the Rams defense is a heck of a lot better than what we saw last week against Tampa. But I mean, to me, side is what I'd rather have side than total in this one. Personally, at a Tuesday look, it makes sense to me to look at the Rams side a little bit more than the under, but I certainly wouldn't try to talk anyone out of it.
That all makes sense. I look forward to capping. We got 48 hours more work to put in before that game pops off, so looking forward to do that. Teddy Covers, I made moves last night and on the show after capping with Big Ragu and Drew Martin. I made a couple moves, and I had to rush from the end of my show. I had to rush down to the live betting show we did on Thursday Night Football, and I didn't get a chance to bet them. So that hasn't hurt me with San Jose State, but it's hurt me in the under in Temple, East Carolina. And I forgot, I wasn't thinking college football after the Thursday or the Monday night football. And now I get to work and it's 46.5. And I got 48 on the under in Temple, East Carolina. So I'm beating myself up. I will not be making that bet at 46.5. It's just irresponsible for me to do that. But that was the look, the under in Temple, East Carolina, and backing San Jose State at -7. What do you think of those two looks?
So I'm not going to try to talk you out of either one. I don't think either one's going to be necessarily make my card. I mean, certainly that Temple under makes a ton of sense. And don't panic. You want to get the best of the number. Your broader goal is to beat the closing number. That Temple East Carolina number is going to close lower than 46.5, I would think. So just because you were there, there's a big bet or two right off the open. Say, oh, I can't bet it now. I don't necessarily agree with that. We always talk, get the best of it, get the best of it, get the best of it. But nobody gets the absolute best of it. Okay, it doesn't happen that way. What I do yesterday, I took Army +3. What's it today? +3.5. What do I look like? An ass clown? No, that happens. That's going to happen some of the time. The goal is to make that a relatively short percentage of the time. 10% or 20%, or where you're getting not the number and the market's moving against you and all of that. It's going to happen. But the broader goal, beat the closer, beat the market for whatever game day is going to be. That's real. And that's something you should be thinking about with every bet you make. And that one, certainly the under, I would anticipate more under money. We've already seen it. We may well see more. It doesn't feel like a matchup where the two teams are going to be marching up and down the field. East Carolina's defense has been a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And obviously we know what Temple's capable of doing. So it makes a ton of sense. I wouldn't let you talk yourself out of it. When it comes to laying a touchdown with San Jose, I mean, I have no problem wanting to bet against New Mexico. I'm with you 100% in that regard. But again, it's a flip. We're changing roles with the Spartans now. Big dogs. Now they're laying a touchdown. They got to win by more than a touchdown. I wouldn't talk you out of it. I don't want the Lobos. When you're a touchdown dog to Liberty one week and you're a touchdown dog to San Jose the next week, it's not a good sign. And from a travel standpoint, it's not good for them. It all makes a ton of sense. The only issue I have is San Jose is not the type of team I'm excited about laying, asking them to win by more than a TD. Lean that way. Wouldn't talk you out of it, but probably not going to make my card.
Okay, interesting stuff. We have a lot more questions coming in, and I do want to close this segment with hearing your thoughts on the wild card game. So we will get to hear what Teddy thinks in MLB as well. Okay, we have a couple things coming in here. We have Matt Randall's Thursday taint play of the day is the Georgia Southern. Let me pull this up, see what the movement's being here. The Georgia Southern South Alabama over. And we've seen this open at 48.5 and go all the way down to 45 or 45.5. He says he capped this game at 54. It's going to be 95 degrees, and these defenses will be spent by halftime trying to stop the run. Takes a lot of balls to go against the market move, and Matt Randall has those balls. What do you think of the over in Georgia Southern South Alabama?
So there are two schools of thought when it comes to hot weather. And I'll tell you what. In general, the wise guys are betting hot weather games under. They think everyone gets gassed in the second half, and while the defenses are tired, the offensive lines are tired too. So you'll see that in the NFL all the time. The hot weather games take under money, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think that may have something to do with the under money here. So the correlation amongst the wise guys is not hot weather to over; it's hot weather to under, for what that's worth. All that being said, I love the take. South Alabama's defense is garbage. I mean, absolute garbage. I don't think they can stop Georgia Southern. I really don't. So the question is, can the Jaguars get their fair share? Can they get in the 20s? I think they can. This game could go over. They get in the, if they get to 17. So I do think Georgia Southern's going to move the football in this game, and that has me leaning favorite and leaning over.
Leaning favorite and leaning over. That's exciting. Okay, I like that breakdown a lot. Just taking a couple notes here, leaning favorite. And
yeah, let me jump in real quick, Jimmy,
sure.
If I could. Because he said, you're saying it takes guts to go against a line move. No, it doesn't. When the line moves one way, guess what? If you like the side before, now you're getting extra value with that side. So I have no hesitation betting against line moves. The line moves will, if you spend your whole week freaking out about line moves and thinking about line moves, and you can overthink it and overanalyze. Find the sides you like, get the best number you can, and let the chips fall where they may. That's my 2 cents. So I have no hesitation betting against line move, and I wouldn't argue if you did either.
And it's just moved down to 44.5 as we speak at Bet Online. So money still coming in on this under there. The line's getting better and better for Matt Randall. Then we have, talking about line moves, UCF Cincinnati. This is 3.5, 4.5, back to 3.5, settling at 4 right now. And we had Drew Martin on the show saying he wants to back UCF in this spot. What do you think of UCF at -4 at Cincinnati on Friday evening?
So there's legitimate correlation here between the underdog and the under. Cincy ain't gonna win this game or cover this spread if both. I don't know if they get in the 30s. I don't think they can get in the 30s. UCF's got a really good pass defense too, and the Bearcats' QB play has been mediocre or at best. Cincy's a defense first team, and if they don't get stops, they ain't winning. They ain't covering. UCF scored 30 plus in 31 straight games. They blew Cincy out last year. They blew them out the year before. I kind of like the spot for the Bearcats. My first lean was towards Cincinnati. The more I looked at the game, the less I was excited about playing it. But if you do like Cincy, again, they ain't going to cover a shootout. It's not going to be 41-38 in this contest. If Cincy's covering, it's going to be relatively low scoring. So I do believe there's legit correlation where you can, maximize your ROI. You're going to bet the Bearcats, throw in a little parlay with the under. But like I said, my initial lean towards Cincy, when I looked at the series history, when I looked at what UCF's been doing, when I looked at their past defense numbers, I'm off the Bearcats. I was lean there initially, and not going to happen. Not at this juncture.
We have some questions rolling in. The weekend taint play of the day is rotation number 383, 384, Western Kentucky, ODU, Old Dominion. And Matt Randall is liking the over here, 70 degrees and no rain. He says, I had this number at 50. The more I capped it, the better I liked it. Western Kentucky, ODU, we've seen no movement in this total. Actually, a 1 cent move towards the under at Pinnacle. This is at 45. What do you think of Matt Randall's take on the over at Western Kentucky, ODU?
I really don't have a strong opinion on it at all. Right now, my opinion of ODU is all in quotation marks, all with asterisks, because, perhaps what we saw in competitive games against Virginia and Virginia Tech was Old Dominion just taking advantage of an opponent that wasn't interested. Last week's point spread was a surprise to me, and the performance with that point spread was a surprise to me, both in a disappointing fashion. I thought ODU would be bigger chalk, and they weren't, and I thought ODU would be capable of beating an opponent that they lost to. So right now, my take on the Monarchs isn't a strong take. And when I don't have a strong take, I'm not going to try to force, not a side total. No, I'm not going to try to force my way. There's 130 college football teams. We'll find opportunities elsewhere in terms of Old Dominion. So I don't even want to give you an opinion. I don't have a strong take on this one at all.
All right, we'll keep rolling along. We have another question coming in from our guy, Dog Brot. He says, what do you think about this under in Florida? Auburn, 385, 386. Auburn of Florida opens at 46.5. Pinnacle's moved up to 47.5, and it's 47 across the board. Big game. Auburn, Florida, Auburn at -3, and the total at 47. What do you think here, Teddy?
On paper, the under makes perfect sense. We've got two slobber knocker defenses. Both teams. You say, what's the strength of Auburn? It's on the defense side of the football. What's the strength of the Gators? On the defense side of the football. So when you have these type of defenses meeting up in a game where both teams need to run the football to be successful, you have a Frosh QB on one side, you have a backup QB on the other side. It makes a ton of sense. Like I said, but the concerns here is that both of these teams are capable of making big plays on offense, on defense, and on special teams. There's the higher than average potential chance for cheap touchdowns in this one, and that worries me with an under in this range. Only way I could bet it would be under. I wouldn't even try to talk you in an over in this game, but probably not going to make my card because of the playmaking capabilities of these two teams on defense and special teams.
Yeah, and it's going up. Torino says Florida's offensive line isn't very good. Auburn has a big matchup advantage up front. Up front. And so we got some other looks. I'm going to start pitching other people's looks to you and see what you like here. Our guy, Dutch Boy Fresh, his early looks have him liking Maryland, Oklahoma State, and Miami. Maryland, Oklahoma State, and Miami. Are any of those three teams going to make your card this weekend?
I just want to talk about Auburn for one more second.
Sure.
Because they're going to play with pace. One would anticipate that the over money's coming because of Oregon's pace rating. Auburn's pace rating. They already beat Oregon this year. So that, I think, is what that over money is. So the one that stood out to me of the three, and it was only the first one that I concentrated on, so you're going to have to give me the other two.
Sure.
But this is not a week to be betting Maryland, in my opinion. Rutgers, when you fire your coach and you're playing a home game next week against a team that does not physically outmatch you, that's your bet on spot for Rutgers. There's one bet on spot for Rutgers this year. Heck, I cashed a ticket with Rutgers this year, week one. Cashed a ticket with them week one last year, too. They're a bet on team when they face some, the Texas States of the world at the beginning of the season. But, I mean, do you trust Maryland? Jackson, who looked so good the first 2 weeks at home, the last 2 weeks he's been god-awful. Terps come off the mat? No, I don't think so. So it's Rutgers or pass for me in that one. What were the other two games that he was talking about?
The other one was the Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, 331, 332. He's liking Oklahoma State. They opened at 8.5. They're now at 10.5.
Look at Johnny giving me the rotation numbers. Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it. I just call you John. I'm telling you, I'm freaking hungover today, and I hate being hungover. That's why I don't drink. Johnny, Jimmy, Joey, whatever the hell your damn name is. It's just hey, this is what I want to ask you. How'd you get the nickname The Bag? But I'll ask you that in a minute. Oklahoma State, look, they've covered every point spread. I was dead wrong about that team last week. They were the better team against Kansas State. If you're riding the Cowboys, and when you have teams that have these ATS streaks, like Auburn's on, like Oklahoma State's on, big money makers from the get-go, I firmly believe if you're riding them, you ride it. If you're trying to jump in after a team's already covered 5 in a row, and everyone knows they've covered 5 in a row, and the markets are betting them up again this week, those don't tend to be positive expectation wagers. So it's real simple. If you got profit in your pocket from these teams, ride them. If you don't, maybe you leave it alone. From a value standpoint, this isn't a great value play with the favorite in this one.
Yeah, that makes sense. The next spot on the card, 337, 338, Virginia Tech, Miami. Miami opening as 13-point favorites, now 13.5 or 14. Dutch Boy Fresh, liking Miami is an early look. What do you think of Miami as a big favorite here?
I like the concept. I want to be betting against Virginia Tech. We wanted to bet against them last week when they were 3-point favorites at home against a team that was better than they are. And we used that on the show last week, and obviously that's as easy as it gets. I know I don't want Virginia Tech this week, and it's the type of thing, hey, if this is a team you're fading, let's keep on fading. If they haven't covered a spread this year, I wouldn't talk you out of it, but it's a complete change in roles. It's a favorite that I don't trust to win games by margin. Miami offensively, the question is, which one's weaker here, Miami's offense or Virginia Tech's defense? I know Virginia Tech's defense no good. Miami might run circles around this team. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Miami wins this game going away. But do I love Miami laying 2 touchdowns? No, I'd rather get them catching points against somebody too.
We have another big, interesting comment from Matt Randall. He says, the biggest discrepancy between the lines and my numbers as far as totals are concerned is Navy Air Force over 44.5. I capped this game at 57, a 12.5 point difference to the over. What do you think of the Navy Air Force over, Teddy?
No, that's not one I would bet. And I'm not sure how you got that number. Look at the matchups between these two teams when they play each other. It's a defensive scrum every year. 6 of the last 7 under the total last year. Our Air Force got to 35 last year. The game still stayed under. So when you have two teams that play a style that the other is familiar with, like these two teams, the scoring tends to be hard to come by. And this is a game where there's, 8 possessions a team maybe. I don't expect to see a ton of big plays in this one. So it's not an over I would bet. I like under. much more than over in this one.
Under much more than over. Yesterday, Teddy, you were liking the Troy, Missouri over, Ole Miss,
Yeah.
Army, and you were interested in Central Michigan, but you were waiting for the line to settle. Is there any other spots that have captured your attention on this NCAA football card?
There are a couple, and the Central line is moving the way that I thought it would, which I'm very thankful for. I bet Air Force minus 2.5 this morning. I didn't know that line would hold. I saw it less than a field goal. I think Air Force is better than Army. And again, last year Air Force scored 5 touchdowns against that defense, Navy. 35-7. To me, from a year ago, it stood out then and it stands out now. Air Force is really good. I know they didn't cover against San Jose last week. I know it was their spot, but it's not just the matchups against the Power 5 schools. They're, beating the teams they're supposed to beat as well. Air Force is better than Navy. I thought 2.5 was cheap. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but boy, I might. I think I will before the day is done. And it's an ugly dog. UConn against South Florida, but it's an ugly favorite. I don't know that USF is laying 10.5 in this game. My number came a good under a touchdown. So I do think there is ample value. UConn gave them a battle last year. So that's one.
Backing the Rams. Matt Randall also loving Air Force, says on that with you. Teddy, our guy Topset, Elio, my guy Elio, liking the LSU Utah State first half under. This full game has gone to open at 70.5 at Pinnacle, now 71.5 there, 72 or 72.5 at other books. He's liking that first half under 38. He's asked a couple times what you think of it. What do you think of that first half under in that spot?
So if LSU comes out sluggish, you're golden. And if LSU comes out firing, you're screwed. My base handicap in this game is shootout, not under. But there's a decent chance that LSU looks right past Utah State, and we end up with a relatively low-scoring, first half here. Wouldn't shock me. But, when you look at these two teams on paper, you can see 800 passing yards in this game. So it's not necessarily a game that I'm super excited about betting under with.
Okay. Yeah, and then we can see that total going up and going up quickly. All right, so that is a good-looking spot. So let's see what other questions we have coming in from this chat, and I would like to talk a bit. I guess we're going to have Drew on again today. All of Drew's looks at this point were for Thursday and Friday. So I'm going to ask a couple more looks that other cappers are on. Raven in the Desert liking West Virginia plus 11. West Virginia plus 11 is a big dog in this spot. 317, 318 is the number here. Texas at West Virginia. Texas opening up as 10-point favorites now, 11 or 11.5, 12 at Bovada. What do you think of West Virginia as a home dog?
Texas is going to remember what happened last year when West Virginia, they stole that game right at the end. Will Greer with a beautiful drive at the end of the game to put the Mountaineers in the end zone, and then they went for 2 instead of going for overtime. I ended up winning that game by a single point. So we have the Longhorns in revenge. Does that merit this point spread? Again, we like Texas as a dog. We don't like them necessarily laying double digits against a quality foe who showed they could hang tough with them last year. It's not a game I plan on betting, but West Virginia certainly has the makings of a live underdog in this one.
We have an interesting look here from our guy Lucas Paff. Lucas Paff saying Georgia Tech plus 10. North Carolina let down after big game. What do you think of Lucas Paff backing Georgia Tech, another home double-digit dog?
So I watched the Georgia Tech Temple game last week, and it wasn't as bad as the final score would indicate. It really wasn't. Georgia Tech moved the football. They just made mistakes. I like that Frost QB. Their defense was okay. Certainly wasn't great, but it was okay. They weren't hopeless. At this stage of the season, when you have the first-year head coach and they're changing everything, you want to get the sense, is this team hopeless? Is this going to go on forever for Georgia Tech, or do they have a chance to do something? And, I thought there was a decent level of athleticism on the field. It was the first time I really watched them for 60 minutes, and I thought I gained something from that because they weren't as bad as the box score, or final score might indicate. So I do think in general, there could be a little bit of value with Georgia Tech moving forward. And I agree wholeheartedly with the spot. There ain't no way I'm laying doubles with North Carolina this week. It's not just last week's game. Look at their entire season. every game. Barn burner, barn burner, barn burner, down to the last play, down to the last possession. Now they got to late doubles? No. It's Yellow Jackets or pass for me. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I am interested.
Yellow Jackets or pass. Okay, we have some things coming in. Both Big Ragu and Yu Chang Yu liking Florida to beat Auburn as a home dog. What do you think of the side in Florida-Auburn?
I think Auburn's better than Florida. I think Auburn's front four on defense has the capacity to dominate the game. I think Auburn's been an undervalued commodity from day one this season. Auburn's got a starting QB. Florida's got a backup QB. No, I could only take Auburn in that game. I think Auburn's cheap.
Thinking Auburn is cheap. Okay, we have questions coming in. Rotation number 325, 326, Pittsburgh, Duke. Duke opening up at -5. Pinnacle's all the way down to 3.5. A lot of people wanting to ask you about this spot, Pittsburgh, Duke. Do you agree with this market move?
There's injury info on that, and I wasn't able to look it up before I saw the alert before I came on the show, but I wasn't able to look it up fully. So unfortunately, let me just see what the big note is, because something happened with an injury this morning. If someone's downgraded so give me 1 second, I'll pop it up.
Cool.
You can ask me the next one, it'll pop up in just a second.
Perfect. No, that sounds great. Iowa plus the points plus that. Now, even that's moving in Iowa's direction. You could have got plus 5.5. Now it's at 3.5. Do you understand and agree with this market move towards Iowa?
So Pickett was questionable for Pitt, and now he's been upgraded to probable. So Pitt's likely to have their quarterback. In terms of the game itself, I knew it had to be something. It was down. It was off the board a couple places, so I knew it was something significant. I ain't betting against Duke. I'll tell you that flat out. Duke's bet on all the way right now, and an undervalued commodity. Remember, they sent a first-round quarterback to the NFL. All the preseason, Duke's down. No. They're not down. I lean Duke. What was the other game you were asking me about, Jimmy?
Iowa, Michigan.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so everyone's going to be on it. I mean, everyone and their mother is going to be on Iowa this week. If you want Iowa, bet them yesterday. That line can only go down. At 3, I'm probably going to look at Michigan. I don't know if I get to the window, but when this line hits 3, and I do think it will hit 3, Iowa's done nothing wrong. We've seen them go on the road and play well. We've seen them, hang with the Wolverines. And, it's not like you can't make a case for betting against Iowa. The only case that I can make here is betting on Michigan, and maybe Michigan's a little undervalued at this stage. Again, at 3, I would lean in their direction. But I know I'll be on a limb on this. I'm confident that I will be a very popular underdog in college football this week. And again, one of the benefits of living in Vegas and doing some of the media that I do is I get a chance to talk to a lot of sportsbook directors. And I had a chance to talk to a sportsbook director, I believe it was last Friday, and I asked him a question. I'm like, it just seems like one of these deals where the popular underdogs do worse than the popular favorites. The popular favorites have it, they cash sometimes, they don't cash sometimes. It's not a killer. But the popular underdogs, it's like it doesn't seem like they ever cash. And the sports director's like, honestly, I think you're 100% correct. He's like, when the public's in love with a dog, we win that far more often than we should. And the public's going to be in love with this Iowa team. So for what it's worth, for the contrarian side would be the Michigan side here.
Wow, that's a great insight. Love hearing that. Chris Sanitate says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy his thoughts on Arkansas State, Georgia State over rotation 381, 382? This opened at 67. It's now at 72 at Pinnacle. It's gone up 5 points. Do you agree with that giant market move to the over, and is there still value?
And do you have the betting number for that? Just I'm going to track the broader market on that real quick.
381, 382.
Yeah, because I know it's not. Yeah, the broader market did open real low. Okay, so it wasn't just sometimes Penny opens, so a book will open off market, and it's not necessarily the broader market that did that. Arkansas, so they were concerned because Arkansas playing with the backup. Arkansas State was playing with the backup QB last week. The backup QB was everybody as good as the starter, and they played a wild shootout at Troy, and that's the opinion of Arkansas State. This is a team that's supposed to be getting in the 40s, and capable of getting in the 40s. On any given base, but the Red Wolves certainly, are not going to be. I'm not going to call them a defensive sieve, but they're certainly not a defensive juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. So, wouldn't talk you out of the concept, but again, this is one where there was a big, and these big moves again, a 5-point total move on a Monday or a Tuesday morning is not the same as a 5-point total move on a Friday morning or Saturday, Friday night or Saturday. The markets move with much less money, and all the money, all of it, on Monday is what we would call sharp money. So, I'm not going to talk you out of betting against some of the moves. I'm not going to talk you out of betting with some of the moves. It's your handicap, man. That's what it comes down to. Your handicap and the betting skills with the numbers you're able to get.
I love it, Teddy Covers. I love it. So we are going to be hammering NCAA football all week long. But Teddy Covers, a lot of people wondering what you think of this wild card spot tonight. Playoff baseball starting tonight. Brew Crew Nationals. I don't want to lean you into with what I think about this spot, but I've stayed off of it. I want to hear what you have to say about this spot. Brewers, Nationals, Woodruff, Scherzer. Nationals big favorite. What do you think here? Are you making a move?
No, I wasn't really that close to making a move. Scherzer had a lousy September. And then you look at the track record against the Brewers, and his track record against everybody in that Milwaukee lineup is pretty stunning. As a team, they had like a 5.16 OPS against him and a pretty decent sample. And the only guy who hit him was Yelich, of course, who isn't playing. But we've seen enough of the Nats in the postseason. They're losers, okay? This isn't a team I want to lay $1.80 with in a game like this. I don't trust them. We love that Brewers pen, and when you're talking about winning in the postseason, starting pitching, yeah, whatever. Bullpens are how you win in the postseason, and Brewers got a pretty good bullpen for this point, its price range. So, total wise, I had my initial slight lean towards the over. I'm like, no, I'm not betting Scherzer over. No, I'm not going to do it. It's postseason now. So it's really a game that, I gave it a pretty good look. And neither side or total was something that piqued my interest enough to make a wager. So I'll be watching and learning, not betting on this one. Certainly not before the first pitch.
I'm going to be doing the exact same thing. I agree completely. Every sentiment that you had there, I agree with, and I am staying off as well. We are expecting Minaya to be pitching for the Oakland A's tomorrow. I don't know if you have more insight on that. We have had 5 times Bookmaker and Bet Online put out their lines and totals. What we're dealing with is a plus 125, plus 126 for Morton and the Rays. We're also dealing with a total of 7.5, and the over is juiced to minus 119. Do you have any early edge or feel on the American League wildcard game?
I haven't done a whole lot with it yet, Jimmy, because it's in a situation where on my screen I'm still seeing undecided. Okay. So you're saying Manaea's pitching? I haven't even looked at it, so I don't want to give you a half-baked take on a game that I haven't studied yet.
I feel that. Is there any team in this postseason, and you talked about the Dodgers yesterday, so I guess I've answered that question. Sorry. You are going to be backing this Dodgers team throughout the playoffs. If they get to a spot against Houston, you think that they can win this World Series, get that monkey off their back?
So let's start with this. I'm going into the postseason with the plan of bet. I think the Dodgers are my team. The Dodgers are my value team. So that if something changes 2 games in, I can throw that in the garbage. I'm not a politician. I can change my mind all the time. And you have to change your mind all the time. You have to say, I was thinking this. No, I was wrong. You can't do that in politics. You better do that in sports betting. So I'm coming in saying, yeah, I'm interested in the Dodgers for sure. Every quote I read out of the locker room says, bet on this team is, they've come close. And usually when a team comes close, it doesn't help them the next time. They have that loser mentality. Think of the Buffalo Bills and the 4 straight Super Bowl losses, or, you can go on and on with those type of the deals where, the team gets there, but it's not enough. And then it's in the back of your head. So I don't know that I'm going to live and die with the Dodgers, but I know coming into the postseason, I darn well believe in the Dodgers. And again, I think that the A's-Rays winner is going to win some games in the next round. I know we're all expecting Astros-Yankees. I wouldn't be surprised if at least it's a very competitive series to get to Astros-Yankees. So I'll be looking at the wild card winner moving forward in the ALDS.
Well, it's going to be great to have you on our show. This is the time of year that I love the most. NHL pops off tomorrow, NBA on its way, college basketball coming, and NCAA football, NFL football in swing right now, which is great fun. Teddy Covers, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody in the chat that's not following Teddy Covers, do follow him on Twitter. He's very active and a lot of fun to follow. And if you want to see Teddy Covers, he's right here every morning on Betting with the Bag. Teddy Covers, thank you so much for joining us. Can you remind the cappers in the chat what your Twitter handle is?
Sure, it's at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. I was not drunk tweeting last night, and I'm glad I wasn't, because there would have been a lot of swear words. But yeah, we try to keep it entertaining. Again, at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Thanks so much. I know we've gotten a ton of support and follows from low baggers. So, cheers. Thank you.
There is our guy, Teddy Covers. Jason H. says, Teddy, thanks. You're the man. Teddy Covers joining us every morning here on Betting with the Bag.